there's three questions that really set me on the path that I'm currently on. I actually had a chance to tell to give a TEDx talk when I was 21, and I spoke about it, and it was really about what set me on the path from a 21-year-old C-level college student with no purpose, no real clarity around what I was passionate about, to this track of social entrepreneurship, philanthropy, and giving back. And it really started a few months before I graduated from Virginia Tech. And I had a dinner with a guy named Steve Robbins, who was a career consultant at HBS, Harvard Business School. And so he advises a lot of these kids who have the world at their fingertips. They can do just about anything that they want to in many cases. And so what advice do you give to those kids about how they pick their profession or their career? He was the first person to pose the question to me of what was I passionate about in a way that I could actually answer it. Because I had always answered it as though I'm passionate about sports, I'm passionate about photography, I'm passionate about music, but I never really understood how to apply those passions in a professional sense. And so I never made the connection. It never seemed that important. And what he really made clear for me was that your passions aren't necessarily the activities and events that you take part in, but they are the values, the emotions, the virtues that those activities and events evoke. So for sports, it would be something like competition, being in great physical shape. For photography, it was a creative outlet, an opportunity for me to kind of create something that I saw in my head and to manifest that in reality. And so it kind of gave me a new perspective on what I was really passionate about. And when you understand those emotions and those virtues, those values that you want to evoke, it's then you can start to apply those to a lot of different professions and activities and things that you can actually apply that to in the real world. So when I asked myself that question, I went on this whole kind of journey to figure out what was I passionate about and how could I apply it. And the next big thing that I asked myself that gave me some clarity about what I wanted to do was a conversation that I had where my father asked me, what was the last thing you've done that you're proud of? I thought about it as though, what was the last elongated period of time that I felt fulfilled and proud of my lifestyle? And the last time that I could answer that, honestly, was about 2 years before that moment, and it was when I was in Chicago interning for an organization called Dreams for Kids. While I was there, I got to plan some adaptive water skiing clinics for kids with disabilities, planned several fundraisers, raised close to $10,000 over the summer, and I looked back at that and I could still feel the positive vibes and this sense of fulfillment that I had from 2 years ago. And so I said, well, if I can still feel that today, maybe I should just do more of those things and I'll feel the same way. I wanted to give back. I wanted to create some more of these events. I enjoyed that aspect of things. And so it still seemed a little bit daunting. And then I had another conversation with a friend of mine who was so just disgruntled and unhappy at work. And I just said, what aren't you doing that you want to be? And she just railed off all these different things. And the only thing I'd say to her was, okay, go do one. And it was just that. It's like what you just said. Here's the things you want to be doing. What can you be doing right now? What's the one thing that you can be doing? What's the one step you can take to start doing it? And so I looked at that for my own life and realized that I wanted to be giving back and helping others in a greater capacity than volunteering, and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start something. So I Googled how to start a nonprofit, and 4 months later, I had my certificate of authority to start Dreams for Kids in DC. So I think that those three questions are really what define kind of my path and who I am. And then since then, I just said it's really kind of this infinite curiosity for everything, people, ideas, and everything in between. I want to change the way people with disabilities connect with one another and live their lives. I look at one of the greatest businesses of our time, and it's Craigslist. It's a business that never sold out, that stayed true to it, that stayed true to its social roots, where they are a very financially successful company. But again, they stay true to their bearings of we want to help people connect with anything they need in their community. So AbilityList is a compilation of two businesses. It's abilitylist.org and abilitydeals.com. So what we're doing is we set out to create a Craigslist type platform for people with disabilities to find and share all the resources they need. Everything from nonprofits, activities, jobs, and housing to products and services that are available to them. And so what we've done is that we've created a 501c3 nonprofit called AbilityList.org. And we've also created AbilityDeals.com, which is strictly a for-profit online retail marketplace for disability products. So what happens is that we create this, this modern, up-to-date platform to sell disability products and services. And what happens is that we have a portion of sales and proceeds that actually go back to AbilityList.org as a charitable donation. And what happens is that the for-profit company is actually what's funding the nonprofit. So the nonprofit's brought to you by Ability Deals. And what happens is that we essentially get to provide a service to the disabled community that's much needed, while also raising awareness and visibility for Ability Deals. So it's this cyclical kind of union between a for-profit and a nonprofit that enables both to succeed and operate fluidly. There's four major categories of disability as classified by the World Health Organization. So you have your mobility, so that's anything from a spinal cord injury to an amputee. You have your sensory disabilities, so that is your sight, your hearing, your olfactory. And then you have your intellectual developmental, anything from autism to cerebral palsy, and then your mental, your emotional, so anything from PTSD to schizophrenia. And so between all those categories, we really separate them out. You have everything from wheelchairs, cars, mobility aids, to hearing aids, speech aids, accessible computers, educational materials for children with autism and intellectual disabilities. So really the full gambit of all things disability that they require that's unique to them. So Ability Deals is strictly products, and then what we do is that really as a service to the community, you have a section on AbilityList.org that lists all the available services that are in your actual location or area. So AbilityList.org serves specific metropolitan areas, so New York City, Washington, D.C., for example, and we list all the available service providers that are in your geographic region. One of the most important ones that I want to share is about confidence and drive and passion for your projects. So everyone has an idea, but what happens to those few people who actually decide to take the next step with their idea to manifest that in reality? And I really can't say it better than Simon Sinek, who has a really wonderful TED Talk titled Why Great Leaders Start with Why. And what he talks about is just that, is that great leaders throughout time, Martin Luther King, the Wright brothers, is they didn't set out with a plan of what they wanted to create, but they had a clear mission of why they wanted to create it or why it needed to exist. And that for the general public to be able to connect with a mission that's based in purpose like that, of why something needs to exist, but also personally to understand and to articulate to yourself exactly why your project, whether that's an internal business report on efficiency within an organization or whether that is a new business that doesn't exist yet that needs to improve people's lives, being able to articulate exactly why that needs to exist on this planet is going to give you the confidence you need to have motivation that it takes to work a little bit later, to make more calls, to really work your ass off, as well as to really sell it effectively to the rest of the world, to build your movement. And so one of the important things that I really learned while starting this was just that, is to really have clarity of purpose and why you're doing what you're doing, and to always ask questions to make sure that you have that. The most poignant piece of advice that went from me just doing because it felt good and I enjoyed it, to wanting to disrupt and really have the largest impact that I could, was a mentor of mine was advising me when I was with Dreams for Kids and we were starting to put on our events. And he had worked for 25 years in DC politics as a chief advisor to several mayors. And he said, the most important thing is not satisfying your need to give. It's satisfying the greatest need. Meaning that you don't need to think about how everyone wants to give back. They feel that empowerment. But the most important thing for causing systemic change and major impact is really asking yourself, what's the greatest need of this community I'm serving? And so when I started to ask myself that question, it forever impacted my work at Dreams for Kids. And then I started to look at what are the biggest problems that we see as a service provider, as a nonprofit, serving the disabled community. And the resounding answer to that question was that it was so disconnected. All the information, all the organizations, and people with disabilities were isolated as a result. So what we wanted to do was to provide a simple, beautiful platform where people with disabilities, people who serve people with disabilities, could share all the things available in one place so that everything was more visible, more collaboration is possible between organizations, and you can really build a community of people with disabilities helping each other and one another. People think it's funny when I tell them that I grew up the son of a speaker, but that the most important lesson that she taught me was really about how to be a great listener. And one of the reasons I feel that's been so important for my progression as an entrepreneur and as a person, as a human, is really that it's enabled me to establish firmer and more lasting relationships with people that matter. It's so easy to get caught in this trap of networking, of meeting people that you feel are of importance or who can advance your projects. But what I've always found is that if you seek to help others first and really identify what other people are passionate about initially, and then seek to match your own interest, your own needs to that of what they want to do, you're so much more effectively going to be able to progress your personal projects, your own mission. And so what I've always kind of focused my outward relationship building and networking on is just that, is how to find out what other people are passionate about, how to give other people a platform to talk about what they want to do, what they're really passionate about. And I think that it's oftentimes rare for people to have an opportunity and a platform to share stories about what they're passionate about, to talk about things like what's the last thing they've done that they're proud of, to talk to people about what are you most excited about as opposed to where they work. So I think that kind of focusing on just that, on how you can ask questions to elicit natural and organic answers from people that they're passionate about is a really simple way to start connecting over networking. And seeking to help others before helping yourself is usually a practice that ends up rewarding you in the long run. What I think is really important, and what gives me hope for the future, is you think back to JFK when he says, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." And I think that it's really easy to be apathetic these days, is that especially as a young person, being 26 myself, it's that for a young person to come out of college and see that there's a 54% under an unemployment rate, to feel disenchanted about having your voice represented in politics. It's very understandable why a lot of people come out feeling apathetic about their ability to impact change. And so what I think is most important is to continue to do this, to continue to elevate the conversation and bring light to people who very simply have made a decision to innovate, to have an impact. And so I think just this, what we need to be focused on is how we can continue to build community and raise visibility for people who are having an impact, to really spread that message to the masses and show people that we really can have an impact, that innovation is still possible, that the individual still has the possibility to create, to innovate, to disrupt, and have a massive impact.